Hi, and welcome to Socio Convos, the first talk in the series that is coming up. Now, educational institutions' learning practices are undergoing an everyday change now. Children and adults are getting increasingly hooked virtually. The number of cyber attacks, abuses, and crimes are also on the rise. In such a scenario, are we educating our children and parents on the do's and don'ts in the cyberspace? To address some of the concerns also faced by children, and to give them a basic understanding, awareness, and knowledge on how to be safe in the cyber world, I have with me Sangameswaran Manikyam, an international cybersecurity specialist. Sangam is a very well-known security specialist and expert based in Denver, Colorado, with over 25 years of experience in the cyber world. He's a sought-after speaker on cybersecurity with leading certifications and has presented on diverse topics at various security forums. He was also invited by Interpol to speak at the International Cybersecurity Conference in Delhi and is currently on advisory board with many industry consortiums. I welcome Sangam to the show. Now, to begin with, let us start understanding what is the right age for a child to set up social media account.
Yeah, thanks for that welcome, Aparna. So hello all. So it depends on the kids' maturity level. So we are seeing this pattern like kids starting from grade 5 all the way to grade 10 or grade 12. So it depends on the kids' maturity as well as their level of understanding of what to expect from the social media platforms and then how to get benefits out of it rather than trying to get into the trap of that and try to get into some kind of a trouble. So it depends. So there is no like straightforward answer for that, which says, okay, it should be at this age, but it depends. So on an average, like we are seeing that kids as young as grade 5s have social media accounts. And in some cases, like even grade 4s are also having social media accounts. So it all depends on the maturity, like maturity and level of understanding of each kid.
When you say grade 5, it would mean age 10.
That's right.
Yeah. So
grade 5 is age 10.
Yeah. So age 10, do we think that they would understand the required safety measures that are needed to be abided when you are on the cyberspace? So would you be able to throw some light on the safety measures to be kept while opening not just social media accounts, but also while browsing internet and other OTT platforms too? Because I'm sure most of the children have access to OTT platforms too now.
Yeah, so a couple of things to keep in mind is that when you're signing up or the kids are signing up for social media accounts, so the main thing what they have to see is that the OTT platform or the social media platform, do they have any check so that any kid below a certain age is required to get a permission from an adult or from one of the parents to start, or when they need to start a new social media account in that specific platform. So if they have that check, then it is good because then they need to get an adult's permission or a consent to start or open a new account. Now that said and done, some of the things to keep in mind is that the security and privacy settings of any social media platform has to be kept in mind when they are setting it up. And it is the same thing which is also applicable for OTT platforms as well, because now everything is moving into OTT platform, entertainment as well as information, and all those things are moving into social media as well as OTT platforms. So some of the security settings, they need to be very clear about what they are posting, when they are posting, who is the intended audience, what is the privacy setting. If the kids are not able to make that decision, then adults or parents or teachers should help them with the right amount of security settings and privacy settings. So that is one of the best practices adopted worldwide.
Okay, now, do you think these kids would actually want an adult supervision when they are on social media accounts? That is something that is worrying all of us. And also, when we're talking about the type of accounts that the children should be opening, whether it is private or public, most of the children tend to kind of have an, interest to have a public account so that the number of followers would go up. So what are the pros and cons of holding private or public accounts for a child as young as 10 years?
Yeah, so I 100% agree because being a parent and I was a kid, like all of us were kids at one point of time in our lives. So they don't like to be monitored. So what we need to do as parents or as teachers is that they should be informed and they should be educated about the good things as well as the bad things which might happen on any social media platform or any online platform. So once they are educated properly, saying that this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, there is no need to monitor. That is the basic thing what we need to do, that impart that education or awareness within the student community so that they can make an informed decision on the basis of that. And you should have a regular or like frequent updated sessions for students and kids in that aspect. So they have to be constantly inculcated into the minds of kids. Now, it is generally advisable for kids to have private profiles on social media. Now, there is a reason for that because they have to be careful about what kind of pictures or information which the kids post on social media as well. Like one of the examples is like cover page photos or profile, not profile pictures, like cover page photos. Like take an example of Facebook. It is always public. If possible, it is always better to keep the profile locked. If your country is permitting that option, like Facebook has specific feature sets according to specific countries. And that is one of those security practices. And then don't join groups in which you are not sure about, and always check to see whether who are all there in those groups. Just because your friends are there doesn't mean that they have done the checking and then all those security checks before joining that group. So this is peer pressure. Like peer pressure means if a kid is seeing a group and then in that group there are five of their friends are already members as part of that group, then they will join. But the problem is that if the group is big, then you don't know who exactly is going to be in that group, who is joining that group, and who exactly is present. Because this leads to another important topic called the anonymity. Because anonymity in online platforms or social media is pretty much a bigger headache and concern for parents, adults, and then teachers all over the world.
Understood, understood. So, another thing, even if a child holds a private account, there are times, I mean, we have gone through issues and we have had people reach out to us. There have been times when people have faked their names and accounts to make sure that I get access to a particular person, or maybe the person is of interest to me. In such situations, what happens when a stranger approaches us online, and how would you relate that to a possible hidden or a direct threat that a child has to go through, and how to deal with them? Because I think that is where this space gives us both goosebumps and nightmares.
Yeah, it gives both the problems for all people, like be it adults, be it parents, teachers, and kids as well. So one of the key problems for online or any social media platform is that anonymity. So anonymity, because when you're setting up an online media account, you don't need to give your true identity like your date of birth or your identification documents and stuff like that on many social media platforms. Because of which there are a lot of possibilities of setting up fake accounts. These fake accounts could be set up like either by kids whom you know, like it might be your friends, or it could be a different age group. This is a bigger problem. So the key concept of stranger danger, like most of the schools educate the kids about stranger danger, because when you're walking on the street on your way back from your bus stop or from your school back to home and stuff like that. If a stranger is approaching you and trying to engage in a conversation, always try to avoid that and walk away and don't even engage in a conversation. In online, it is the same concept and same principle. Like when a stranger is trying to approach you, you should always try to check their true identity and see what kind of information they have posted online and what kind of friends they have. Now, these friends could also be your common friends as well, but I'm sure that in most of the cases, these common friends may not have checked. This is another problem in social media, that whenever you get a friend request or a connection request, you see that there are a lot of common friends and then you accept the connection without even cross checking. So this happens like a chain reaction kind of stuff. And always never reveal your private information to a stranger, because online is a place like social media or any online platform is a place where a kid who is 10 years old can pretend to be a 55-year-old, as well as a 70-year-old grandma can definitely act as a teenager. So all these things are possible online. So you never know whom you're interacting with. So unless you are 100% sure, after going through all these checks, apply common sense, get the help of someone who you trust. And then this trusted person could be someone from your family, someone from your class, your teachers and stuff like that. And then only try to do that. Like, these are some common patterns. This is a bigger problem with online media platforms, is that anonymity is a bigger concern. So there is no way to check the real authenticity of the person unless you have those details with you.
Yeah, I think this actually leads us to emphasize on the fact that cyber security training or awareness programs should become, often and frequent in classrooms and in institutions now, because I think this pandemic has thrown us into a platform where suddenly everything is online, and kids are also finding it difficult to understand what is right and wrong. And most of the times we tend to blame them for not being safe or not being what do I say, careful about their approaches online. So I think through this video, if you could just throw some light into what is cyber abuse and what is cyber bullying, if we can discuss it with some examples so that children and parents can relate to it from their own personal experiences. One way we could address at least some part of how to get our children safe online.
Yeah, sure. So in that case, before we move into what exactly is cyber abuse, like the security awareness or cyber awareness has to be done on two parts. One is, of course, to the students or to the kids. The other one is to the teachers, because teachers were like in today's generation of teachers may not have been exposed to online or cyber threats and stuff like that. So they also need to be aware about if a student is reporting something to them, what they should do. So there is a generation gap there as well, because technology is progressing at a faster pace than ever thought by all of us. So it is progressing at a tremendous speed. So you have to keep all those things in mind. So let's see what exactly is cyber abuse. So cyber abuse or cyberbullying is bullying using electronic communication means. So this could be using social media platforms or online platforms like email, messenger, chats, or groups, or social media platforms. Now, the biggest problem with this is that it could be anonymous. So the cyberbullying could be anonymous or could be your friends. This goes back to the same topic we were speaking just a couple of moments back, is that in internet or in cyberspace, anonymity is a bigger problem, because some of this bullying could be done by your friends who have set up any of the social media accounts or a fake profile just to create a problem for you. Now, the biggest problem of the cyber abuse or cyberbullying is that the effects doesn't stop after the harassment stops. So it's a long-standing psychological impact on anyone who is at the receiving end. So we have to keep all those things in mind. So then the normal question for many parents as well as teachers or even the kids would be like, what exactly or what are some of the indications of cyber abuse or cyberbullying? So some of the examples, like the indications are like the kids may appear nervous while they are receiving a text or an online message or an email. The habits with the devices, smartphone devices change. They may begin to avoid their devices or using them excessively. So both are two extremes. Like either they would completely avoid or they would indulge more in accessing those smart devices. They make excuses to avoid going to school or going to their friends group. They become defensive or secretive about their online activity. They withdraw from friends and family. So they go into their own shell and then do all those things. So they have some physical symptoms such as sleep problems. They can't properly sleep. They may have stomach aches, headaches, weight loss or gain. These are anxiety related or stress related. And they may be falling behind in school or acting out. Their grades start declining. So these are some of these patterns which both parents as well as teachers can easily find out. Like they also, some of the other traits would be, or other behavioral aspects would be like they appear especially angry, frustrated, or sad, particularly after going online when they are doing some online transactions or going and trying to do something online. They will get more stressed out, more frustrated, or sad. And sometimes they even go into like deleting their social media posts or their social media accounts or email accounts. So these are some of those traits or some of those behaviors which can be easily detected or which can be detected as a change. We call it as like a baseline behavior, and anything which is deviating from that baseline could be a problem, could be a symptom for a bigger problem as well. So it's always better to be careful. Now that also leads into like what are some of the forms of cyberbullying that would definitely come up as part of that. So some of the forms of cyberbullying would be like using emails, could be from fake account or from a genuine account or a real account, messages and text wars, using blogging sites or social media, creating a problem for that person. So these are some of those forms of cyberbullying.
Okay. Now, when should a child approach an adult, and who should the child actually get help from?
Yeah, so the kids should always approach uh, either parents or teachers. So parents and teachers are ideal to approach because you should always discuss the problem. So when you start discussing about the problem, that is when you open a channel of communication with either the parents or with the school authority. And when you go to these two people, like either parents or school teachers, that is when they have to approach the authorities, like either the law enforcement, the police, and then try to see what are the next steps involved in trying to resolve this issue and stuff like that. So that is when you need to definitely approach. Now, other question which might come up is that like, what should parents or teachers do when kids experience or are involved in cyberbullying? The basic thing is like you should always discuss the problem openly, and then you should explain why this is important. You should show empathy through conversation and be proactive with communication and encourage them to proactively communicate with you, because if the communication channel is broken, then these problems will never come out, and then that would lead into some serious issues like behavioral challenges or mental issues as well. So there is a problem with all these things. So you have to be very clear with that.
Yeah, so because now, as a company, as an organization, Socio works extensively in the social emotional space, and what we have found out is that there is absolutely no communication many a times with between parents and children, and that is also leading children to kind of experiment online and then solve their own issues without opening it up to an elderly person, which is why I asked who they approach or who do they take help from. I think through this conversation, they should get the message very clear that if there is a cyberbullying attempt, or if they get involved in a cyber crime or a cyber abuse, then the first person that they should ideally reach out to should be their parents or teachers, who can guide them to the right proper channels. Now, can you also, before we end this talk show, can you also throw light on the Indian cyber law and
Yeah.
some insights into cyber etiquette? I mean, broadly, before we wind up, if we could just kind of give awareness or education on, now when something happens, why do I panic and why do I get sleepless nights? Now, instead of that, isn't there a proper channel that is backed by the law enforcement agencies and Indian cyber law that would come in handy and help us?
Yeah, exactly. So before we move into that, I would like to highlight that teachers should also take this seriously, as you know the kids and their friends in your class. So moreover, kids spend most of the day with teachers inside the classroom as well as in the school. So you are the best judge to assess the situation. So you should definitely take this seriously, and you should know what to do next. Like there have been some instances when the teachers have reached out directly to me or through some other channels and asking for, someone has approached to me like 2 weeks back, I did not know what to do, and then 2 weeks is gone. So don't delay that, and this is how you should definitely get in touch with authorities and then take it to the next step where you should try to resolve the issue. So I will give some insights about the current legal the cyber law, as well as some background to that. So in India, the cyber law is based on the IT Act of 2000, which was primarily created for e-commerce related activities, like which would deal with the data protection, cybercrime, adjudication, cyber disputes, and then between countries and stuff like that, and also government mandated surveillance. So there has been certain changes on this cyber law as based on the IT Act 2000, because IT Act 2000 was primarily focusing on hacking attempts and stuff like that, even though we had amendments like in 2006, 2008. The last amendment was in 2011. Now, to keep certain things in mind is that even though we are saying all these things, when IT Act was created, like IT Act was implemented, there was no social media platforms. So we didn't even think about, or at that time, we didn't even put any thought in that direction about what should be the social media strategy or social media cyber laws, which should be targeting like any kind of cyberbullying or any kind of online attacks and stuff like that, how it should be dealt. So there are specific certain sections and all those things. I'm not going into the details of those sections. We might be doing a follow-up session on that. So,
absolutely,
but to keep some things in mind is that there are certain sections. So what happens is that some of the sections were dropped because of right to privacy as well as freedom of right of expression and stuff like that. So apart from that, there are certain options definitely possible. So the best thing to do is that never respond to any cyberbullying or any cyber threat. So this is for the parents as well as for the teachers, that they should definitely approach the police, and police would definitely investigate that, and then cyber cell would get involved and they would go through the proof and see like what kind of thing was done, and they would be charging accordingly. So this is what we currently have from a legal background as well as from a law enforcement background in the Indian context. There is not much of seriousness in the way in which the law is currently implemented and the punishment is handed out. That is what all of us look forward to, so that this will become strict and people would think twice before they do something online.
Correct. Like you said, I think we need much more information and awareness on cyber etiquette, cyber abuse, and the mental emotional trauma that a person undergoes because of cyber behavior, the behavior of many people online, and what actually triggers that. So this conversation is not ending here. This is a two-part series, and we would be dealing in depth about adult behavior in the cyberspace and cyberbullying, cyber abuses. I think that is something that we need to talk in detail, and how law can come to our rescue. So thank you, Sangam, for joining us. We would come with the next part of Socio Convos. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.